June 24th, 9:09 a.m., and it is cold and rainy outside here in San Francisco. Oh, I've got a lot of stuff on my mind today. I want to start with asking, are you watching this? If you are, hit like and subscribe. Now, just let me know in the comments. I definitely can tell some people are watching, but I'd love to hear a little feedback. I worked with a marketing consultant for myself a few months back, and they really wanted me to create more videos, and they wanted me to be all over TikTok. And I tried it, and it made me physically ill. There were smart suggestions. That person is very, very smart. He makes amazing videos himself. It's something about that format of it feels so stiff and fake to me, and it bummed me out. It just bummed me out, and I could not make TikToks. You'll probably still see me trying because we have audiences there, but I wanted to do something that felt more genuine and authentic, and that's why I'm playing around with these little live videos. And somehow it's 2025 and live videos are still tough to make on the internet. Like every other day, there's some sort of glitch. LinkedIn doesn't register the videos coming in. My microphone is dead or something. It's really fun. So tell me if you're watching this for sure. What else is on my mind? I am watching in the background a 1973 Ford Mustang convertible eBay auction and just fantasizing about buying that car. And it's in the middle of the country and flying there and then driving it back to California and spending like a week doing it. This sort of desire comes about like once a year for me. So it's not like a half midlife crisis. It's like a mid-year crisis. There's something about it where I just start going, I could buy that car. I could drive it out here. If I don't like it, I could just sell it as soon as I get here. Or if the engine gives me too much trouble, I've been obsessed with doing an EV swap. And I could just swap that out. They make custom kits for Mustangs. The 73 Mustang has a lot of engine room because they made the car longer, but they didn't really need it in the engine bay. It's a whole thing. I restored a 67 Mustang with my father when I was 15 or 16. And that car actually like started my entire journey in my career because my father helped me buy it originally. It was a rusted out car. I worked odd jobs and paid to have the most complex stuff done. And then I sold the car after I graduated from college, and it paid for me to move to Chicago with and start there with no job and no prospects, and then just start hustling. So I love that. It also reeked of gas. It was extremely loud, and it drove like a boat. It wasn't that fun to drive. I have to keep reminding myself that, which is why I've always wanted to do an EV swap on an old Mustang. What else is on my mind? I got my butt handed to me a few times. I'm going to talk a little bit about politics. Sorry, trigger warning. The backstory of this is I'm not genetically, I'm not a joiner. I walk around with a constant sense of alienation, and I have no idea how other human beings do the things they do. And I also feel like a lot of political activity really is virtue signaling, or I think about that a lot. But there's been a lot of protests here in San Francisco, and I don't love huge crowds of people, so I sat out a recent protest here. A lot of the other people in my neighborhood went, and what's interesting is okay, so what I meant by I got my butt handed to me. So I didn't go that morning. I didn't go to the big protests that are all over the city. But I did go to the grocery store later that day, and I was being checked out by someone who was clearly a first generation immigrant. And I asked how their day was. And they're like, oh, it's been really quiet today. And I was like, oh, really? Our neighborhood's usually pretty bustling. And they said, well, yeah, everyone was at the protest this morning. And I started to get a feeling of oh, that's why you go. That's why you go. Because you're showing the people that you live around that you care. And I came off like a completely aloof jerk in that moment, which, I fairly am an aloof jerk. And then later, I'm sorry, I'm just going to get into this. I just have tried to detach my attention from politics recently for my own mental health. And yet you really have to care about these things. And, I'm probably gonna say some stuff that's wrong here, but I support trans folks. A lot of people around me where I live are trans, but I wasn't paying enough attention. And then the recent Supreme Court cases came out, and I was listening to a podcast with a legal scholar talking about the fact that, like, how it was written is going to make it really difficult to argue that trans people have been persecuted in one way or another by the government recently. I think it was Amy Coney Barrett who was saying that, like, oh, that just hasn't happened at all. And that can't be a protected class. And then I was thinking about it, but it didn't really seep in. And then I went to a coffee shop where a couple of my baristas are trans people. And I overheard one of them talking, like, pretty upset about how, if they could mask, if they could find any way for themselves to hide, they would right now. That's how tough things feel in San Francisco, even. And I was like, it just kind of hit me that, as someone who is more of a member of the majority, that, I don't know. I was going through this thought process in my head of, I don't want to think about the oppressed, right? I don't. I just, like, if I'm gonna be really honest, I don't. But then the world is oppressing people. And you have to. And I felt like a jerk. And what I meant by I got my butt handed to me is because, like, in both of those situations, I was thinking to myself that, like, they may be small things, like going to a protest in San Francisco, um, speaking out about issues. They may feel cosmetic or small things, but actually it's about the people who live around us and trying to protect our communities. So that's what I'm thinking about. Um, okay, to pivot away from that for a minute, I'm also thinking about launching like a series of classes or something. I don't know what exactly what this would be, to help create more leaders of change in organizations and to prepare leaders for that first moment of change they're going to make. So many times leaders get thrust into a change or transformation and they haven't been prepared for it. And the first one they always flail at because it's just a completely new set of skills, right? Like, it's not just about being a manager that moves into being a leader. It is a whole new world of influencing others, making really strategic decisions about how to pursue change and transformation. And usually the first one fails, right out of the gate, or they get through, but they burn a lot of bridges or they burn themselves out. So I've been thinking about how do you prepare someone to be a true leader of change. So I'm thinking about that. I don't know what the right format for these things should be these days. And I'm thinking about how often those sort of managers who are making their way to become leaders and then thrown into change and transformation really have to learn how to embrace the mess of other human beings and embrace the navigation and negotiation of really tough topics with others, and how oftentimes they're not prepared or they're just fighting for their own individual team. It's something that I've done. Like, in my early career, I just wanted to fight for my own individual team. And I really had to understand how to frame things as a win-win for the organization and frame everything in terms of, like, what are the motivations of others in leadership and what are they trying to accomplish and how could this help them. So I'm thinking about that and how to put that, like, what I've seen, and turn that into a set of for me, it's like skills that leaders or managers or leaders could practice before they find themselves in that environment, right? I think oftentimes too about how fire departments practice, yeah, like, police forces practice. They don't just walk into novel situations unprepared, but so many of us as managers and leaders do. So those are a bunch of random thoughts. I think I covered everything from uh, leadership and change to trans rights to buying a Ford Mustang. Sorry. This is the pinball. This is the genuine sort of videos I talked about making where I pinball from topic to topic.